to go ahead and begin to honor everybody who got here on time. So to make sure you're in the right place from permit to plan, we're going to be working on creating a resupply plan for the John Muir Trail. If anybody could please mute themselves so we don't get background noise. And let's just start. All right, who am I? Hi, I'm Erin. I'm a self-taught backpacker, started about 10 years ago. This is a picture from my first backpacking trip, and I went through so many struggles in that. I've got a background in biology, outdoor education, logistics, and I've been pursuing entrepreneurship for a long time, trying lots of different things, but this is what I'm actually really passionate about, is kind of the outdoors and just keeping things simple. So trying to simplify this for people. And for these purposes, I want everyone to know that I'm not a dietitian. And also this year, I'm sure everyone knows there's a lot of snow out there, and I'm not a snow travel expert. So just wanted to make sure that was known. First things first, I did mention this for the people who were there really early. In the chat, you'll find a link to a sheet that looks like this, and you're going to want to make a copy of it, and we're going to work with this pretty soon. Just to let you know what this will look like today, we're going to do a little bit of an overview about food for people who would benefit from that. Then we're going to talk about all the things that go into planning our resupplies. We're going to make our own itinerary, and then you'll get a chance to hear about the resupply services that I am providing this year, and have some time for Q&A. Let me make sure somebody else didn't try to freeze. There's so many factors that come into this that I don't know that I can speak specifically to everyone's needs. Some of them are listed here. Another one I would say, this relates to your gear. If you sleep warm, you're gonna be burning less calories. So I'd say the biggest thing is to do some what they call shakedown hikes, which means it's trial run, and put in those big miles and see what your appetite is like. This isn't an incredible distance. It's definitely something to be really proud of, a couple 100 miles or whatever amount you're going to do. But even if you do happen to run some kind of deficit when it comes to calories, it's not the end of the world. This is going to be kind of a best guess kind of thing, / do your homework and try to figure it out. One thing I will say is that one of the resupply points, Muir Trail Ranch, people leave about a third of their food behind, and they have an incredible surplus. So nothing wrong with having some extra food, but there will be opportunities along the way to buy additional if you need to at some of the stops. And so that's what I have to say about calories. Oops. Let's move on. And then what we're eating, what's in those calories. So we have it broken down into 3 major things. We have carbs, fats, and protein, and sugar is in there with carbs. And so that is going to be like your instantly accessible energy, and you might need that, or you're going to need that throughout the day. And then if you do start running low on those carbs, your body will access the fats next. They're going to take longer to break down and longer to process, but important to have there for kind of that slow burn. And then protein is like your recovery. You're going to be doing a lot of strenuous activity, and you need protein every night for your body to kind of replenish and heal itself to be able to get up and do it all over again the next day. So this is kind of the rough breakdown that you're going to be looking for when you are kind of looking at the food that you'll be eating along the trail. As far as when you're looking at Let me let somebody in. Sorry. Amount of calories to ounce is at least 100 calories per ounce. I would shoot for more, and if there's something you love that's a little less, it doesn't mean you can't get it. You just want to average it out to at least 100, if not more. And a big reason for that has to do with fitting it inside of a bear can. So here on the right, we can see some of the popular bear cans that are required on the John Muir Trail. You can't do a bear hang on the John Muir Trail. So we have the Backpacker's Cache on the right, the Bear Vault in the middle, pretty popular. I use that one. And then something called, I forget what the whole brand is called, but that's a popular one as well. Roughly 100 cubic centimeters equals a day worth of food. I would not try and push these beyond what is listed here, because you also need to put anything else you're bringing that is smelly, like, let's see, people tend to bring like deodorant and lotion and be like, don't bring those things, just be stinky. But there are some things you need to put in there, like toothpaste or bug repellent. They are rentable. The Backpacker's Cache on the right is available at the national parks. I have to let someone else in. Sorry. REI, if you have REI around you, wildideas.net, and even more places. These are just some that I know of. Some of the ways, if you are going to be pushing it, if you're going to be pushing the amount of days that you're trying to fit into a bear can, you're going to want to repackage some stuff, like the dehydrated meals. They come with a lot of air inside of them, and you're going to want to repackage things that have air for sure. And then this lining strategy has to do with if you bring any kind of bars or like flat items, what I do is I turn my can sideways and I line it and stack everything up. So I'm going to make a YouTube video about that. If you're not subscribed to me on YouTube, it's One Stop Trail Shop, and the strategies for packing a can can be really important on those long stretches. And just to tell you my strategy, because maybe it will be useful to you, I like to do a quick breakfast, maybe like some cheese or quick oatmeal, and then I snack continuously throughout the day, have a fat heavy lunch and a nap, and a dehydrated hot dinner, and that is what I have figured out works for me. Okay, so when we're talking about resupply on the John Muir Trail, there are a lot of different things that need to happen. Many of you, I think, have a start date and a location and a direction that you'll be traveling. And if you don't have that, on the next part, you can put an ideal. So after that, there's a lot that needs to happen. You can see here, you need to be able to plan those resupplies, and that is going to come from either training and preparing for an average mileage, or some people like to do a specific camping itinerary. They decide, I'm going to cover this many miles this day, and they get a lot more technical about the passes and certain lakes they want to be at. I personally planned it one day at a time and trained to be able to cover an average, and that works for me. So if everybody could open up the resupply tool, and if you came in late or if you haven't gotten a chance, inside of the chat you will see a link to it. You'll need to make a copy. It is not an editable sheet. So starting trailhead, I am planning a hike late in the season once I've supported everyone who wants resupply services, and I will be starting from Rush Creek. So put in your starting trailhead, and down here I have all of the trailheads that this tool supports. I hope it includes yours. It has all of the ones from Inyo National Forest, and I think it's just missing one or two from the Lake Edison area. So if that's you, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so now that we have our starting trailhead, miles to enter to reach the John Muir Trail. If you're starting at Happy Isles, it's going to be 0. You're at the terminus. So scroll on down here. So for me, I am starting at Rush Creek. So what I want you to do is find your trailhead and highlight it, just so we make sure we're choosing the right items, and also your direction. So I'm going to be traveling southbound. That's what SOBO means. And so I'm going to highlight that as well. So go ahead and just highlight your columns to minimize any kind of mistakes. So the miles for me to enter are 8.7. So you find the amount that it is for you and enter it right here, 8.7. And then this is the junction of the John Muir Trail and the direction of travel. So go back down here. I'm traveling southbound, and the John Muir Trail junction is at mile 40. So I'm going to put mile 40 in this next one. And then my exit point. I am going to be going out Kearsarge Pass, but just for these purposes, I'm going to say that I'm exiting out Whitney, or Whitney Portal. I'm just going to put Whitney for short. So go down here, and I'd say the majority of people might be exiting at Mount Whitney, but maybe you're exiting out Kearsarge Pass, maybe you're exiting out, maybe you're northbound and you're leaving at Lyell Canyon. Lots of different possibilities, but highlight your exit point. And so then we're going to put in the John Muir Trail junction at our exit point in direction of travel. So I'm traveling southbound, I'm exiting at Mount Whitney, and the point on the trail is mile 210. Put in mile 210, and then the miles to exit to reach that trailhead. So at Mount Whitney, that is 10 miles to get all the way from the summit, which is technically the end, to get to where your car might be or your transportation. Okay, so all of this has calculated stuff for you in this highlighted section. Basically, highlighted sections, don't mess with them. There's a lot of calculations going on. So the miles on the John Muir Trail that I've actually covered are 170, including my entrance hike and my exit hike is 188.7. And then these two I'm going to speak to a little bit right now. So this whole thing is about resupply, right? Because resupplies change our mileage. They show up at certain points. So let me tell you what these mean. There are 2 resupply points that require a hike that is significant. One of them is if you resupply in Independence, that might be Mount Williamson Motel. You get a drink. That might be Mount Williamson Motel, or there's a post office there. I believe there might be another motel. And this is a less popular one, Parcher's Resort, because it's 12 miles one way to get to it, so you're adding 24 miles round trip. But it does solve a solution for people who have a slower pace. There's just a really big blank section. If you've been doing a little bit of research about the John Muir Trail, you know that the southern portion, over 100 miles if you include the exit, has nothing on the trail. You have to either hike really fast, or pay for packers to come in, which is something that I'm not speaking to today. So if I were to hike out to Independence, this would be my total mileage, everything considered. And if I were to hike out to both, this would be my total mileage, everything considered. I want to make sure that's accurate. I'm not used to talking this much. Okay, so now all of these numbers are also affecting these numbers down here. So if you're SOBO, I want you to highlight SOBO. If you're NOBO, I want you to highlight NOBO. So you know which area to look at and not get mixed up. So now I'll tell you what these numbers mean so this is if I don't resupply at either Parcher's Resort or Independence, -7, that means I've already passed the Tuolumne Meadows resupply point, so I'm not going to be going backwards. At my 29th mile, that's what this means, because everything changes as we enter numbers. At my 29th mile, I'll reach Red's Meadow. At my 57th mile, I'll meet VBR. At my 75th, so on. But if I want to resupply in Independence, if I was going on, you can see these are the same. But when I reach Independence, I'm at mile 156 for myself. And at Whitney Portal, I'm at mile 203. I need to make sure that these numbers, double check this so many times. I will reach out if anything changes. Today I was starting at Happy Isles, the first trailhead, and I had a 0 hike to reach the John Muir Trail, and I started at mile 0. These are all edited, so they updated. So Tuolumne Meadows was at mile 24, Red's Meadow, VBR, and these have the added mileage if you have to do those hikes out. So hopefully that will start to make sense as we move on. I'm going to change this back to how it was, 8.740. So at this point, let's put in our start date. For me, if you double click in this square right here, and go ahead and put in your start date that you have on your permit. For me, it is August 29th. And then go ahead and grab this little blue dot at the bottom and just drag it down pretty far. I don't know how long your trip is going to be. And this should populate all the next dates. And then, so this is what I was saying before, where some people plan their exact campsites and what mileage they'll be covering. And if that's you, this is going to be a longer process. But for me, like I said, I have an average mileage that I train for, and that's how I do it. So let's say my average mileage that I train for is 12 miles. We're going to do just a little bit of math. On the next day, I want you to double it, whatever it is, whether it's 10 to 20, 12 to 24. Say you're going big, 14 and 28. And then I want you to drag and select both of them. So we just have one little square or one little dot on the bottom right. And with the same thing, you're going to drag that pretty far down. So on each one, for me, it's adding 12 miles. And now what we're going to do is look at these mileages that we're covering and compare it to when we would meet those resupply points. So the first resupply point that I will hit is Red's Meadow at mile 29. I would reach it on some point on day 3. The second one I would hit was Vermilion Valley Resort at mile 57. And if I pushed, I could get there on day 5, just a couple miles. The next one would be Muir Trail Ranch at mile 75. So that could be day 6 if I pushed it. Let's say I wanted to make it all the way to Muir Trail Ranch. So that was at mile 75. And right here on day 6, I reached mile 72. So I can trust in myself that over the course of these 6 days, I'll be able to average out just a tiny bit more. So this check here is if I'm resupplying. So I'm going to go ahead and check that. And over here, I'm going to write where I'm resupplying. Muir Trail Ranch. My total mileage, I think with this speed, let's see if I can go over just Independence, over Kearsarge Pass, which takes you to Independence. So for me, to reach Independence, you can see right here, that would happen at mile 156 for me. And it turns out that's one of the day end mileages for me, which is perfect. I would always say round, let's say, you want to be able to have food with you through the end of that day. So I'm trying to think of which direction you would round. I think over here you would want to, it would be okay if you went beyond it in your mileage. So let's say I were to get to mile 160, I could still check that I would go to Independence that day because I would have reached it at some point. So over here, I'm going to write Independence. And then to get to Whitney Portal, that's going to be mile 203. So right here at 204, that would be Whitney Portal where I'm done. So now I can see the length of my legs of my trip. So my first leg is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. So that's what I need to have with me initially. And then this tells me what needs to be waiting for me at Muir Trail Ranch. At Muir Trail Ranch, I need to have waiting for me enough to get to my next stop, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I do not recommend going beyond 7 unless you are unless you have some experience in that. It is really difficult to fit into a bear can. It's a lot of weight as well. So I just wouldn't recommend going beyond 7 days, which is why there's this other option if you do have a slower pace. And then the package waiting for me at Independence will need to cover me to the end, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 days. Last summer, time lapse. This is from a survey. John Ladd, if you look him up, he has a lot of really useful information actually if you have questions about anything, gear, illness, just anything, look him up. Lots of really good information. But this one had to do with preparation, just showing a little more about how much time people are spending. This isn't just resupply, of course, there's other logistical preparations, but it's a lot of time, and there's nothing really more valuable than time. So that's where working with One Stop Trail Shop comes in. This is me on Forester Pass, which is on the John Muir Trail, and this could be you up there, giving you a virtual high five, getting there together. So resupplying with One Stop Trail Shop, what does that look like? Let me tell you what this funny looking diagram means. You have a start date. In order for us to work together, that is needed. And what happens is initially we have a meeting where you will get an extended version of that tool. So here's the extended version of that tool. Not only will I help you solidify all of this and make a plan, we're also going to put in your resupply locations and dates. It's going to give you the leg lengths of your trip, and over here you'll get to see each leg 1, your start, end point, date, number of days, and fill in every single thing you want to eat that day. And leg 1, leg 2, leg 3, however many legs you have, you can just kind of virtually fill your bucket for every single day. And this is a tool that we would look over together and I would help you with in an initial virtual meeting. And so these numbers are weeks. By 7 weeks ahead of your date, we need to have that plan solidified, and we'll have another meeting to solidify that and help you with anything. 5 weeks ahead of your start date, I'm going to go shopping, and going to be, some of it's going to be online, some of it's going to be in person, and do all those things that we talked about, the sorting and the repackaging and the figuring everything out with the resupply locations, whether it's a post office or whether it's a backcountry resort that wants you to do all these, jump through a lot of hoops. I'll be doing all that, and then 3 weeks ahead of your date, things are going to ship out. You're going to get tracking information, and basically during all this time, you can be doing lots of other things other than worrying about all that stuff. Some of the hidden perks of this that are less obvious, I'll be buying things more in bulk, so the prices are going to be closer to the wholesale price. And also, I'm located in Southern California, so my shipping prices that will be covered on your end will be lower. So I'm not sure where everyone in the US is, but I'm decently close. So the not so hidden perks, and if you're familiar with the trail at all, maybe you recognize Banner Peak right here. This is at Thousand Island Lake. Really beautiful area. This was last summer. The not so hidden perks are time. We never have enough of it, right? Calm, just like knowing that things are taken care of. When, I don't know about you, but when I have so much on my plate, it can just feel uncomfortable and always feeling like something is inching closer and closer, some deadline. So you can put your focus elsewhere, whether it's on other parts of the trail, like training or getting the gear, or also just like, whatever you have going on in your life. And I hope that would just be able to transfer more excitement to the trail, and like knowing that you're going to make it happen, or you're doing everything to give yourself the best chance at like pulling this off, because there's so many things that go into a through hike, and this is, I would say, one of the most kind of heavy ones, which is why I created this service. So, we have a lot going on, and it's just all these things can be off packing tape in your house. You might need to go to multiple stores, or know the lead time on like how long it'll take certain things to ship, all that kind of stuff. So then you can just have a cleaner plate and worry about other things. So right now I'm opening up 10 spots just to make sure that I can devote the amount of time to everyone, to make sure that this is like really clear, really smooth, and just, these are all the things that I hope that you're able to do. You just have more time, you can train, you can get your gear dialed, and you can just be excited that this is going to happen. The price that I have is $24 per day. This is per person. So this includes all the work. There are still things covered on your end, which is the food and the shipping and any charges that a resort will have. For example, I think Vermilion Valley Resort charges either $30 or $40 to hold your resupply. That would also be covered by you. And you could just be more confident that this is going to happen. And it may seem like a lot, but it's less than just one day guided up Mount Whitney on a guided climb, just for one day, versus multiple weeks spent in the backcountry. It's less than this really, really, really fancy tent. Oh, and when I say less than, I'm talking about maybe the average trip, or maybe even longer than average. This is talking about like a 20-day trip. So that investment would be less than the duplex, very fancy Z-Packs tent, which I would love to have. Actually, this is just the Plex. And I also found out that it's less than this designer gnome side table. Everyone needs one of those. Okay, what if plans change? There's a lot of snow out there, right? Or maybe, you get injured or something like that. So basically, if you need to cut off at a point where something hasn't happened, then you will not get charged from that. The initial deposit to secure one of those 10 spots is $200, and we'll be able to schedule that first meeting. If you decide before that first meeting that it's not going to work out, you get everything back. If you decide after that first meeting, you'll get 150 back. If you decide after this, your deposit is just your only investment. After this point, the shopping has already happened, and 75% of that my service charge, which was 24 times the amount of days I'm supporting you. Your food, if you're in the US, I'll ship it to you for free if you're not going to be able to use it on the trip. If you're out of the US, I will cover half of that charge. And then after 3 weeks before your start date, I think you're probably feeling pretty confident. I think you're feeling confident more back here. But, you know, it's gone. The ship has sailed and you will be on your way. One thing that I do want to mention, if you want to show up with your first leg that you already packed yourself, but you didn't want to deal with the resupplies, that's not something that you'll get charged for. So if you're planning for a 15-day trip, but the first 5 days you're taking care of, you can subtract those 5 days because you're doing everything. So that might be the case for some people. They are comfortable just bringing their own first full bear can, but want support from that point on. Another few of frequently asked questions is what food is available. So this is something that is evolving, but currently you will be choosing from a menu selection, and that, let me drop it actually right now in the chat. Oops, sorry, that is actually the link if you want to get a spot, if you want to sign up. So preemptively did that. But this is the link to the menu choices. Let me drop that in there. Like I said, it is evolving. For example, if your start date, they're recommending right now that we kind of shoot for late July. I'm not sure when everyone's start date is, but that would mean that you need to have your solidified plan by, I think, early June. So we still have time. So this selection is going to increase. But right now for breakfast, we have dehydrated meals, protein-packed oatmeals, and if you're more like low-key in the morning, there's also options like Pop-Tarts, or just having a bar. Some people they don't want to eat in the morning. And for lunch, kind of got some like fatty and like protein-filled options. Like we have dried pulled pork and tuna wraps. And snacks are all kinds of bars and different kinds of berry and trail mixes. I have a candy bar every single day that I'm on trail. Yes, there's a good chance it will melt, but you can lick the inside of that wrapper and it's so good. For dinner, there's the dehydrated meals, and for add-ons, we've got things like coffee, electrolytes, little olive oil packets, which might not be a bad idea for your like second portion of the trail, because your appetite tends to spike a little bit and it's like really good calories. If you want to buy your own food or you have special diet needs, right now I'm not equipped to have that service. It might be that way in the future, except like I said, if you want to come with your first package ready to go when you show up to the trail, that is absolutely great.